Hey everybody, welcome to Jay's Fifth Down, the NFL podcast. I'm your host, Jay and Gay. It's something new I'm starting. Here on this podcast, we'll be covering latest headlines, news, topics in the NFL. In today's episode, I'm going to recap Week 7 of the 2021 NFL season. Saw a lot of interesting games over the weekend, so we're just going to go through that real quick. First off, I want to start off with the Broncos and the Browns. They played last week on Thursday Night Football on Fox. Broncos took the loss. Browns won 17-14. Baker Mayfield did not play. He was injured. So Case Keenum started. He went 21 of 33 for 199 yards and one touchdown. Dearness Johnson, it was his first NFL start. And he got 22 carries, 146 yards and one touchdown. So great night for him. The Broncos just couldn't stop the run game, and it was an abysmal performance by Denver. Teddy Bridgewater finished with 23-33, 2 touchdowns, and Javonte Williams finished with 4 carries and 20 yards in that game. So, but the biggest 2 games I really wanted to dive into from Week 7 were the Chiefs and Titans, and then Ravens and the Bengals. But first off, I want to get into the Chiefs and the Titans. So Chiefs, everybody, we all thought our game, they were going to start off to a, fast start. Patrick Mahomes is going to, the Chiefs are going to have a winning record to start off the year. And it's not been the case so far. And Kansas City has been a bit of an odd year for them. And so, in this game, was not very clean, not very good, kind of sloppy from the Chiefs. They lost 27-3. Patrick Mahomes, he left the game with an injury, but finished with 20 of 35 attempts. He completed 20 passes out, 35 attempts, 206 yards, 1 interception, and he lost a fumble. He also had 6 carries for 35 yards. Byron Pringle, he was the leading receiver for the Chiefs. He finished with 5 receptions, 73 yards. Now the Titans had a great game plan going into this game. They played great defense against the Chiefs. Receivers pretty much were getting blocked up for the most part. They didn't, there's only so much you can do with the Chiefs receiving core. There's only so much you can do with Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, Mecole Hardman. I mean, arguably one of the best receiving cores in the league. And the Titans pretty much shut them down because the Chiefs did not have any touchdowns. They only scored 3 points again, the field goal by Harrison Butker. And in this game, Ryan Tannehill played a great game. He played well, really well, finished with 266 passing yards. And Derrick Henry also had a passing touchdown in the game because I was watching it Sunday. And, first off, I'm shocked. I was really shocked that the Chiefs were losing that bad. And it just, I looked and I saw Derrick Henry throw a touchdown pass into Pruitt. I think it's Jeremy Pruitt in the end zone. And I'm like, wow, this is crazy. So, but in this game, the Titans just dominated. They dominated pretty much this whole scale. They didn't let Patrick Mahomes go off like he normally would, especially against Tennessee. They pretty much held him in check, sacked him a couple of times. They were getting after him. The O-line didn't really look that good. Patrick Mahomes was scrambling a lot. So that's, and just overall, just a great game plan for Tennessee going into the week. And they executed it well. The play action, again, was working well for Tannehill. I'm going to be honest. Ever since when he left Miami and he went to Tennessee, and, Arthur Smith, who's obviously the head coach for the Falcons now, who was his offensive coordinator then, and they just started, they started him and benched Marcus Mariota, started Ryan Tannehill, and he just went off. And he's got great receivers as well. A.J. Brown, he's, one of the best young receivers in the league right now. I was a big fan of him since he came out of Ole Miss a couple years ago. He was part of that, two-headed monster receiving core, DK Metcalf, when he was at Ole Miss as well. So, and then just Derrick Henry, obviously, what are you going to do with him? You can't stop him. And just so the offense really has been clicking ever since that time. And Tennessee has been a team always, in contention, for the last couple of years. So I just want to tip my hat off to the Titans for a great game. I mean, they won 27-3. It's still shocking that I say that. Like the Chiefs was 27-3. But again, the Chiefs had 334 total yards of offense, 257 passing yards, 77 rushing yards. That's not, to be honest, that's not going to win you any games in the NFL. You can't win any games with 77 rushing yards. You just can't do it. But the Titans, however, finished with 103 rushing yards, 24 first downs, and 5.8 yards per play offensively, which is really good. That's if you want to win in the NFL, those are pretty good numbers to bold your case. Even though it's very hard to win in the NFL, you almost have to have a great game, very little mistakes. Defense has to play well, really well, especially now. So, but the other big game I want to get to is the Ravens and the Cincinnati Bengals, the Baltimore Ravens and the Cincinnati Bengals. So, of course, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, it's supposed to be a good game. It's going to be, it's going to be a lot of offense, firepower. Both quarterbacks, really great quarterbacks. Lamar has gotten better even since last year. He's getting better. So in this game, Joe Burrow finished 23 of 38 for 416 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. One of those went to Jamar Chase, who broke off I think it was an 82-yard reception, and he took it all the way to the house, made a couple guys miss. I mean, this guy, I've always been a big fan of Jamar Chase ever since he was at LSU. He's going to be really good. He already is, but he's going to be even better. It's hard to say because he's such a good receiver. How much better he can actually get, since he's already so good. Him and Jefferson, both great receivers. Just a year apart out of LSU, and so. So I want to go back a minute though to the draft. So everybody thought the Bengals were probably going to take an offensive lineman, right? Because Joe Burrow, obviously, he got hurt last year. And the pass protection for Cincinnati was very horrendous last year, as it has been a couple of years now. And everybody's thinking they're going to, take an offensive lineman, maybe a guard or tackle, whatever, which one. And they take Jamar Chase with their first pick in the first round. And, a lot of surprise around the league. Everybody thought they were going to go offensive lineman. I did as well, but the Chase pick, I think, worked out well for them because I think he has the most receiving yards by a rookie in his first 7 games in I think, NFL history, something like that, which is really good. For a rookie receiver, that is extremely good. He's got over 600 yards, maybe 700 yards receiving in his first 7 games. I mean, that's amazing. But Jamar Chase finished the game with 8 receptions, 201 yards, and a touchdown. To over 200 yards receiving for him on the day. Lamar Jackson finished 15 of 31, 257 yards, 1 touchdown. That one went to Marquise Brown. He finished the day with 5 receptions, 80 yards, and that touchdown. Overall, the Bengals pretty much controlled the game. They controlled time of possession. They just pretty much controlled the game offensively and defensively. They for the most part held Lamar Jackson in check. He wasn't going around making guys miss, scramble like he usually does. Just overall well-rounded game from Cincinnati. They put up 41 points, which is really good. And which seems like that's the amount of points you have to put up in the NFL to win, because this is an offensive league now. So at the end of the day, if you have more points than your opponent, that you will win. That's just how football is right now. Wasn't always like that, but now it's an offensive driven league, and you got guys coming out the draft every year. who are just adding to that firepower of the league. Quarterbacks, receivers, running backs, everybody. So it's just different era of football we're in right now, but it's really fun to watch these guys, and these coaches get creative with these guys, using them in different ways. So it's really interesting to see now. But yeah, the Bengals went 41-17. Again, Joe Burrow had a great day, 416 yards, 3 touchdowns, completed 23 of his 38 passes. What I'm really noticing with Joe Burrow is he's a guy that when he gets pressured, it doesn't seem to faze him that much. Normally, when the quarterback sees a blitz, you have vets who do this. Guys have been in the league 9, 10 years, 10 or more years. They start panicking a little bit, when they see when they get blitzed. But Joe Burrow, not so much. I think he has one of the highest completion percentages in the NFL against the blitz, which is pretty good for a young quarterback like him, and it's only his second year. I think it's in the 70s against the blitz, which is really amazing because as a quarterback, I can imagine when you're getting blitzed, it's very hard to make all your reads because you got those linemen, those linebackers, even the corners coming off those blitzes. They're coming in hot, fast. You got to get that ball out now. So the fact that he's able to have this completion percentage right now against the blitz is really, really good and pretty fascinating for a guy his age. We all knew how good Joe Burrow was in college at LSU. Obviously, they won the national championship that year. He finished that year with 60 touchdowns. But when he got to the NFL, obviously he wasn't handed the best set of toys to play with, but in Cincinnati, and then he got hurt, but now the Bengals are off to a 5-2 start to the year, so just they're a team to keep an eye out for in the future, just so keep an eye on the Bengals. As for Baltimore, they dropped to. I believe it is 5-3, or I'm sorry, 5-2 in the year. So, but on to the next set of games. The Giants. You had the Giants and the Panthers. Giants beat the Panthers 25-3. Sam Darnold got benched a little later in the game. Finished 16-25, 111 yards, and no touchdowns, but an interception. I just wanted to talk about this game for a minute before we move on here. Sam Darnold, the Panthers overall just didn't look good in this game. It was very sloppy play, but you gotta give credit to the Giants as well. They played great defensively. A guy that he's having a very underrated year is if I say his name right, Azeez Ojulari. He's a rookie. Went to Georgia, graduated from Georgia. Got drafted from there and won the Giants later rounds. One of their picks from the later rounds. He plays defense, and he's got a couple of sacks on the year now. He plays really high motor. He's a guy that's going to get after you the whole game. He's tough, and he played really well, also. So overall, just a great game from the Giants. It's very rare to say, but they, like I said, they held the Panthers in check. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey isn't playing either, so you have to factor that in as well. Don't know how long he's going to be out for, but just something to keep an eye on. So the Panthers will drop to 3-3 on the year after starting out 3-0. They're dropping down to 3-3. And the thing to keep in mind moving forward, the Panthers did put in PJ Walker. You guys might remember him from the XFL. He played quarterback in the XFL. He's played pretty good there. Panthers picked him up last year to be on their roster, and he played a little bit there last year, and now he got a chance to come in this game. I think he had about 33 passing yards, in relief of Sam Darnold. But Matt Rule, he put him in there, took Sam out. He said, basically Matt Rule said after the game, he said, our quarterback, he didn't do enough to win the game. That he said it wasn't good enough, and among other reasons, but that was the main thing. And as everybody knows, with the NFL, football in general, it all starts with the quarterback. It all starts with the quarterback play. You know, at the end of the day, your quarterback is the leader of your team. You know, and Sam's a good guy. You know, he's a great football player. You know, he didn't have the best opportunities in New York. You know, and get him to Carolina, and he played really well to start off the year. And then the Panthers started dipping down, and they lost the last three. Now they're 3-3 on the year. They play the Falcons next week at home. We'll get into that a little bit later, but for right now, Daniel Jones, he finished the game 23-33 for 203 yards. One touchdown. Devontae Booker led the way on the ground for the Giants. 14 carries, 51 yards. One touchdown as well. Darius Slayton led them in receiving with 5 receptions and 63 yards. Also, Dante Pettis, he's a receiver. He had a passing touchdown as well. So you got a lot of, so that's 2 non-quarterbacks had a passing touchdown week 7 on Sunday. So I find that pretty interesting. You know, it's just, I don't know, man. It's just kind of funny. You know, Derrick Henry, like I mentioned earlier, Derrick Henry had a passing touchdown against the Chiefs, and now Dante Pettis, apparently he had a touchdown. So he had 5 receptions for 39 yards receiving, but he also had a passing touchdown as well. So interesting game right there. Now, moving on, we're going to get into the Falcons and the Dolphins. Falcons won 30-28 against the Dolphins, and down in Miami, you know, the Falcons just came off a bye week. They're 2-3. They just beat the New York Jets. The week before that, they beat the New York lost to Washington football team, but they had beat the New York Giants before them. So the Falcons come in, you know, hoping to get that win and get to 500 on the year, which they were able to do. Matt Ryan finished the game 25-40, 336 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 1 fumble lost. Cordarrelle Patterson finished with 14 carries, 60 yards, and a touchdown. Mike Davis, he finished the game 4 carries and 10 yards. And then obviously, you know, the guy who stole the show offensively for Atlanta, Kyle Pitts. I mean, 7 receptions, 163 yards. I think he was targeted 8 times, and he caught 7 of those. You know, I mean, amazing. Kyle Pitts is a guy that, you know, not many people when the Falcons took him were too fond of the pick. I'll be honest, I was one of those people. You know, I wasn't really fond on the pick of Pitts at the moment. I was hoping they would have gone quarterback at 4. But, you know, seeing now that, you know, I mean, most everybody thought we were going to take Justin Fields, right? He didn't go to, they think, the 10th pick to the Bears, and the Falcons selected at 4. He didn't go for another 6 picks, which is very surprising. But he's kind of struggling right now. Didn't have too good of a game against the Buccaneers. Get into that later. But, yeah, Cordarrelle Patterson had a great game on the ground. Well, he had a good game on the ground for the Falcons, you know, and finished with 14 carries, 60 yards, a touchdown. You know, he's kind of turning into that all-purpose guy for them. You know, he's returning kicks. He's catching passes out the backfield, even lined up out wide as a receiver, and he's running the ball. I mean, this is a guy that's going to do whatever you ask him to do, and those are the kind of guys you want on your football team. If you're a coach, you want the guy that's going to You want the guy that says, you know what, coach, whatever you need me to do, I'll do it. You know, whether that's blocking or line up at receiver or running the ball or being a kickoff or punt returner. You know, whatever it is, you know, the Falcons asked Cordarrelle Patterson to do, he'll do it. It's funny in the interview, they asked him, would you say, are you a running back, a receiver? What are you? He said, man, I'm just a baller. I'm an athlete. And so that's what you want to hear, man, from your athletes. You know, that's what you want to hear, man. The guy that just says he just plays football. He's a football player. You know, he doesn't have a title. Whatever you need him to do, he'll do it. So that's just amazing to hear from him. And, you know, he's getting better. Learning this Falcons offense. Arthur Smith learning his guys better as well. And the Falcons do pick up the win. It wasn't a pretty game. It was not, defense for the Falcons was not all that good. But when needed, they made plays. Floyd Luakon, a linebacker, he finished with 8 tackles, 1 interception. Desean Jones had 11 tackles. I think he had 3 tackles for loss. And he had a great game. Won NFC Defensive Player of the Week by the NFL for his efforts. in the win against Miami. Just a great game by Desean Jones. He's got, Desean Jones is a guy, he's mostly known for his cover to cover, sideline to sideline ability, but he can come up and make plays in the box as well. He showed that against the Dolphins Sunday. So moving forward, I do like to see that from Desean Jones. In the defense, obviously, on the back end, on the secondary of AJ Terrell left the game a couple of times, and when he went out, just it didn't look good. Tua, recently there have been rumors about Desean Watson and him going to Miami, but as of right now, Miami is not going to move the trade any further until his legal actions are resolved. All the issues concerning him with his legal problems are resolved. That's the latest report on that. But Desean Watson did made it known that he wants to be traded and he wants to go to Miami. No other team, just the Miami Dolphins. And Miami is willing to do the trade until, when all his legal actions and legal problems are fixed. Just so that's the latest report on that. If you guys were wondering about Desean Watson, but Tua Tagovailoa had actually had a good game. 32 of 40, 291 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 picks. Again, I mentioned those were by Foy Luakon and Jalen Hawkins, the rookie for the Falcons. That's his second interception this year. So he's a guy that, he's playing well in his second year. Hopefully the coaching staff can find more ways to get him on the field more, some different packages. He can come up in the box, make some tackles. He can also play. He can cover as well, obviously. So, but Tua finished again 32 of 40, 291 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 picks. Myles Gaskins led the way on the ground, 15 carries, 67 yards. It's National Tight Ends Day, so Mike Gesicki had to get involved. He finished with 7 receptions, 85 yards, and a touchdown. So across the league was National Tight Ends Day, so of course. You had to throw to the tight ends more than you probably normally would. Again, I mentioned Kyle Pitts had a great game. I know he had a great National Tight Ends Day celebration on the field. But Jalen Waddle, former Alabama receiver, finished with 7 receptions, 83 yards. He left the game a couple of times with an injury. He came back in the game, though, late, but at that point, it had been too late for the Dolphins because they lost to on a Younghoe Koo field goal. Falcons stopped them, got the ball back to Matt Ryan and the offense. They drove down the field in 2 minutes, got to field goal range, and Younghoe Koo nailed it. So it won the game for the Falcons 30-28. They're 3-3, and they will face Carolina next week at home. That's going to be Sunday at 1:00 on Fox. So it's gonna be interesting test for both teams. Sam Darnold, we don't know if he's gonna be the starter or not. Like I mentioned earlier, he got benched last game for PJ Walker. And so we'll be looking out to see who's gonna start for Carolina. So help me keep an eye on. But just overall this week, this past week, your other games, you obviously had the Rams and the Lions. They faced off Matthew Stafford, the former Lion, and he had a great game. And they beat the Lions 20-19. Lions now fall to 0-7 on the year. Not a great year, not a great start to the season for the Lions and Jared Goff. And Dan Campbell is the new head coach down there in Detroit. So hopefully they'll get things figured out, and they got to get things figured out pretty soon. And the rest of your scores around the league, Bucks beat the Bears 38-3. Tom Brady threw a 600 touchdown pass. Just amazing. He actually, Mike Evans caught the 600 pass, the 600 touchdown pass by Tom Brady. He gave the ball to a fan in the stands. You guys probably saw this. He didn't know it was Tom Brady's 600 touchdown that he just threw to him. So he just, he's like, oh, it's another touchdown ball, So he just gave it to a fan. And when they told him that, hey, man, you just gave away Tom Brady's 600 touchdown ball. He's like, he's got that big face. He's like, oh, man. And they get the ball back from the fan, So that's, I want to say congratulations to Tom Brady for throwing his 600th career touchdown pass. That's just really, solidifies him as the GOAT. This guy, there's nobody to ever play the position greater than Tom Brady, better than Tom Brady. I mean, there's no argument there. So Bucks continue their dominance against Chicago. Justin Fields didn't have a great day. A lot of pressure, but I can't say it was all Justin Fields' fault. I mean, the offensive line did not play well for Chicago, and he had a lot of pressure coming in the whole game, and just wasn't pretty. So moving forward, hope to see the Bears can maybe they solidify, shore up that offensive line a little bit better to protect Justin Fields. It's interestingly, we'll see if he's a starter moving forward. They might go back to Andy Dalton. Who knows? Maybe Nick Foles. Just something to keep an eye on. The rest of your scores for the game around the league: Cardinals beat the Texans 31-5. Just huge win for Arizona. They remain undefeated. They're 7-0. They'll take on the Packers tomorrow night on Thursday Night Football. Colts beat the 49ers on Sunday Night Football 32-18. Colts have been playing pretty good ball last couple of weeks. I think they're 3-1. 3-1 the last four games. So great start off to the year for Indianapolis and Carson Wentz. I guess this is resurgence since he left Philadelphia. If you guys didn't know, he was traded to the Indianapolis in the offseason for some draft picks. And the Eagles, speaking of the Eagles, they lost to the Raiders 22-33. The Eagles fall to 2-5 on the year. Raiders go to 5-2. Some notes from that game: just wasn't the offensive game plan. Just wasn't that good for Philadelphia. They're trying to run everything through Jalen Hurts, and you can't do that. I mean, this is a league now where it's pretty much dominated by the mobile quarterbacks, but you can't just run everything through a guy, like that. It's got to be a balanced offensive attack, and that just wasn't there for the Eagles at all. The ground game was pretty much non-existent, except for Jalen Hurts, and it wasn't a pretty game, and Nick Sirianni now is on the hot seat a little bit in Philadelphia, something to keep an eye on now. Not a great start off to the year for him. So that's something to keep in mind moving forward for Philadelphia if you're a Philadelphia fan. But if you're a Raiders fan, you're happy because you guys are now 5-2 on the year. Derek Carr is playing great ball. With the whole John Gruden situation, the Raiders are moving on. They said they're just going to keep moving forward and keep playing as they should. And so they're playing good ball right now. And Saints and the Seahawks, they played on Monday Night Football. Seahawks lost that game 13-10. Again, Russell Wilson is out. He's been out. He was out for that game, and he's going to continue to be out with a thumb injury until I'm not sure the exact timetable on it, but he is out for a while now. For a couple of games until they can clear what's going on with him. So Geno Smith has taken his place. Had a great ball to Metcalf early in the game. It was a 92-yard play. Through his Metcalf, he broke a tackle of Marshawn Lattimore and Marcus Williams, and he just took it to the house. Freak of nature. DK Metcalf's a guy again that I mentioned. I was a big fan of him and AJ Brown out of Ole Miss a couple years ago. I was like, those guys are going to be studs in the league one day, and they are now. So just great to see those guys playing really well for their teams. That wraps it up for the Jay's Fifth Down podcast, first episode of the podcast. It's going to be, you guys can subscribe and comment, please, on the post. You can catch the next football game. It's going to be tomorrow. It's going to be the Packers and the Cardinals on Fox. Thursday Night Football. Joe Buck, Troy will have that game on Fox. You can also watch it on NFL Network and on Amazon Prime. That should be a good one. Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, they beat the Washington football team 24-10 on Sunday. Aaron Rodgers again had a great game. He finished with over 200 passing yards. Devontae Adams, 6 receptions, 76 yards, touchdown. Great game for those guys. So the Packers moved to 6-1. They moved to 6-1, so it'll be a good game. It's gonna be a really good game. See how both of these offenses match up. Can the Packers defense step up and contain Kyler Murray? Can that happen? Just a lot of big headlines to take away from Week 7. Mostly just are the Chiefs contenders or are they pretenders? something to keep an eye on for the Chiefs. If you're a Chiefs fan, I'd be a little bit worried right now. Patrick Mahomes, don't know the update on him with his injury, so that's something to watch out for. If not, Chad Henne will replace him for the upcoming weeks if he remains out for Sunday. So that's something to keep an eye on. I'll keep you guys updated on that and many more. Please tune in next week to the Jay's Fifth Down, an NFL podcast. I'm your host, Jay Gay. Thank you guys.